Welcome to the Hey Mama Homeschool Show, centered around family life and home education. How do you get homeschooling and housework done? How do you help children who are struggling? How do you teach a rebellious child? We have answers. You pour into your family daily, and we are here to help you. Brought to you by the Old Schoolhouse, your trusted partner for over 20 years.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. I am here with both of our other hosts, and it's quite exciting, I think, for all of us to be here together. So if you've been listening to some of our episodes, you've got to hear all of us at different times talking about lots of fun homeschooling stuff individually. And now we're all here to talk together, and we are talking about homeschooling with educational toys and games. So I think I'm going to learn a lot. I don't know about you other ladies, but I am going to learn a lot just being a host here, as I usually do when I prepare any of these episodes. So I'm Steph Morrison. We're all from the Old Schoolhouse, and I'm here with Deborah Wooler and Christine Weller. So I'll get you ladies just to say hi.
Hi.
We didn't want to say it at the same time.
And so we're going to we've got a few questions actually. We thought we'd kind of go a little round table, and we're going to answer a few questions, and then we'll share a whole bunch of other stuff that we've got for you from all across all our homeschooling helps from the Old Schoolhouse. This show is sponsored by Genesis Apologetics. To learn more about creation, dinosaurs, the global flood, and the Bible, visit www.genesisapologetics.com. And I have just recently watched I think it's probably their latest video. I don't know how often they put videos out, but this is the latest one I've heard of, The Ark in the Darkness. And it is a pretty awesome movie. I think just in the videography is amazing. And of course, just the apologetics part. So I recommend everybody to go and watch that video. Great facts, great science on the flood and the basis for that, the scientific information about that, and really, really great viewing, really great. I don't even know what that's called, but how they do the cinematography, I guess, but the digital work of creating that type of a movie was pretty awesome. So go and visit that at genesisapologetics.com. So each of us are going to share about some of the memorable ways that we've used toys and games with our children as learning activities. And there are actually so many great and wonderful games. We're actually going to talk about some of the companies that put some of this stuff out a little later on in the episode. So we're going to have three different questions, and I'm going to go around and ask. I'm going to get Deb. I'll maybe start with you, and we'll just all answer this question. So what is or was the most engaging activity for your children?
That is such a big question because there were so many engaging activities that we did with our kids. And as far as homeschooling goes, it started really young in doing activities because, for myself, I had all the kids, and I have 8 children. And so I always had a toddler and a baby while I was homeschooling. And so what did I do with, the baby would be napping, and then I'd put the toddler in the high chair right at the table with us. And it started that young with activities that they would do while we were homeschooling. And so we would do preschool activities that they could do on their tray, right? And so we started with all kinds of just chalk and a chalkboard to clay to putting beads on some the whatever you call those chenille stems, and just every day a different activity for that youngest one so that we could do our homeschooling with the older ones. But at the same time, I really felt like they learned a whole lot more if we did hands-on activities with their schooling, even the older ones. So whenever they would ask me, Mom, can we make this thing? Or can we play this game? I would always say yes, because I knew how much getting the senses involved in it every way would cement the learning that they were doing, no matter what it was. So I can't really say the most engaging activity. There were so many. I would say One of the things we loved and the kids still love to do is through, you probably can get it through many different science places, but we used insect lore. Insect lore has the cups of little caterpillars that you can purchase and a net to let your caterpillars grow and then do the metamorphosis and the chrysalis and become that painted lady butterfly or whatever it was. And we still have probably 6 of those nets that you can zip up at our house because the kids, even as old as they are now, all of my kids are grown and my youngest is 16. And so we are still with the 3 that live at home, always finding insects, putting them in those little, those little zipper things and watching them and learning from them. And I have, kids that are grown and gone that will send me pictures of insects because they think they're so cool. So I guess, for long term, that was, just a very engaging activity for our family. And many of the kids just took off in the science realm as far as that goes.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, as you said some of that stuff there, Deb, I kind of thought about like, oh yeah, that was really good. That was really good. I've got an answer for mine, but it's more recent, and I knew I could have gone back really far. So anyway, Christine, I know your guys are not quite as old as mine, but I don't know if you've got something for their current engagement or something that came to mind before. What's been the good thing in your house?
It's funny, as Deb was talking, I was thinking, taking a trip down memory lane of all the things that we've done, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's just like you. I was like, oh right, remember when we did that? And I think I would say the same thing. There wasn't just one particular thing that stood out. But I will say it was mostly things that they could build with their hands or, activities that they can make. And again, yeah, my kids were always like, can we make this? Like they would scroll through the books. Like, okay, even today, my 12-year-old, we just started a new curriculum and he heard in the introduction video, yeah, we got crafts too. He's like, Mom, can we skip to the craft section? I'm like, yeah, but you gotta when we get to the craft section, we'll do the craft. But I think that's what it was. And over the years, it could have been just something with just those little Duplo blocks when they were little. And then we moved on into Legos and all of those things, just that encouraged them to just use their imagination. They loved things like kinetic sand and Play-Doh. Just again, the creativity that would come. And they would spend hours, which was like, yay, I can get dinner done, or we can get the other kids' school done while they were good for an hour. So yeah, it was all of those things, that were engaging for us.
You mentioned Lego, and I'm like, yeah, that should have been like, that was probably our longest term engaging kind of thing that they like Lego, really a simple concept of that together, but gosh, just generation and generation of that being the engaging kind of thing. I'll say, so my boys are 16 and 13 right now, and they aren't really as into it. Like there's Lego in the house still. It's not as engaging now as it was, but I would say that's like the longest term engaging activity. What I actually had for that's been most recent is I picked this up a while ago, and it's called the Knot Game. Not that long ago, but a year or two ago, and it's actually been sitting around in our house, not really touched very much, because I thought this is great. So it's not like actually creating knots, and although they made a game out of it, it's called the Knot Game. I don't think we've ever really played the game. I think I kind of tried to get that in. It's actually just more fun to pull it out, and the cards just show how to do the different knots. And I've seen both the boys do it. I'll say my younger one has done a little bit more, but I've really enjoyed that too. And I even though I know this one's a lot about our kids, what has been the most engaging activity for the children, I find this one really neat for all of us, just to learn all these different knots. Lots of good stuff to with their heads in thinking on how to make those knots, as well as just trying to do them quickly too. Anyway, lots of fun with that game. So our next question, what is or was the activity you considered to have the most learning benefit? So the most learning benefit. How about we start with you, Christine, on this one?
Yeah, I was again just gonna go with the building blocks. And so as the tools have changed over the years, it's just that connecting pieces and building a concept that was in their mind and just, creating it in real life, I think was the most benefit from that because they're, first of all, their creativity and then problem solving skills. Oh, that piece doesn't fit there, or it's falling
Mhm.
over. How can I reinforce it? And like, I kid you not, every single time it was very hands off for me. I would be watching from afar and, okay, do I need to come help them? Do I need to give them some suggestions? But they no complaints. They just, they would sit there and they would ponder. And yeah, we started with those little baby blocks and then go figure. This is a shout out to Demi Learning. We started off with Matthew C. and we got the manipulatives, if I could say that properly. And they kind of mimic the Lego blocks in a way. And they would spend like we would do the math lesson, and then a whole hour later, they're still building and counting at the same time. And so to me, that was just such a nice ease into the actual Lego blocks once they were older, and they still sit down thankfully and will build all kinds of different things, and then they're like, Mom, hey, look what I built, and I have no clue what it is, but then they will come and explain, well, this is this, and I put wheels on it and I gave it this attachment, and then they're practicing storytelling skills and all of this stuff. And that's what I want for them. I want them to be able to explain, present all of this stuff. And so they're understanding what they're doing. They're not just following, some instructions and, oh, look, I built it. This is all from their imagination. And I love that part.
I love that too. I think adding on to that would be my kids loved Connects, which is very
Yeah, we had
similar
those too. Yeah.
idea, and wedgets. I don't know if you know about wedgets or even the magnetiles, the magnetics.
Magnetiles, we've done
Um,
those. Yeah.
the wedgets are like these little square, different shapes that you build things out of, and then Connects, of course. And then for imaginative play, we loved Playmobil because it had
Yeah.
all the fun
Oh,
Yeah.
that
little
was really popular in
characters.
our house too for quite a
Yeah,
few
yeah,
years.
those are great. I think education wise, as far as like an academic subject, I think the most learning benefit we had was making timelines.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh,
that was
yeah,
hands-on
good.
too, because they had to create their little characters and, cut them out and put them on their timeline and, just keep that going. I really loved that. Sometimes we did it on the wall, sometimes we did it in a book. Just
Mhm.
depended on the child and the situation, what we were
Mhm.
using at that time. I loved Usher's, was based on Usher's Annals of History, but it's called Adam's Timeline of History. And that is a huge timeline that will fill your entire living room or your hallway. It's just like really big. And we always could go to very colorful. We'd go talk about the different periods of history and how and what was going on in the Bible at the same time, and then create our little characters and put them either on on another timeline or in their book. I think that had the most like learning benefit, I think, as far as a hands-on everyday kind of thing. Um, and so we did enjoy that, but so many games and puzzles, and like I'm thinking like critical thinking skills, like the company Critical Thinking
Okay.
always puts out some amazing books, and even for the younger ones, like my grandson, I have him a couple days a week and we do school, quote school, but he doesn't even consider it that. He just has fun with grandma, and
Oh,
grandma
that's
gives him
awesome.
all of these sneaky educational things, like, hey,
Such a good grandma.
we're gonna make this sticker chameleon, and where's number one? Okay, put the sticker on number one, and we make the animal, and then we learn about the animal, and just all the little fun hands-on ways that, help that learning to stick, and they think it's just fun.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Actually, some of those, again, I just recalled some of those, especially the games and puzzles. Like that's one of the definitely one of the things where I think really had the most learning benefit. And even as you said there, Deb, where you kind of sneak these activities in that yeah, from our mom or grandma minds where there's definitely a learning benefit to it, but it's like the kids don't even know. One of the things we had is just we have a map, as most homeschoolers do, right? We have a map of the world that's really always been on our wall in one place or another. And we just kind of play this game. Actually, my one son really started it. It's not even something I started, so that's even better. He came up with it, but he just started quizzing us. Okay, what's a country that starts with P? And then we're
Nice.
having to say all these country names, and you can actually you can go through all the alphabet. All the alphabet is covered. We did have a little time there where there's not really a country that's with Z. And no, Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. Yeah.
There's another one too. Oh, Zambia.
Zambia. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so we can cover like every one. And so usually somebody gets to look at the map, whoever's calling that out, a country that starts with. So that's been great for my geography learning. Hopefully the kids have got a great learning benefits as well, but it really benefited me learning because I don't know about you, but I go over these things with my kids and it's like, I don't remember any of this stuff. I'm sure I learned it going through, as a public school. I'm sure I learned it, but I don't remember lots of this stuff. Lots of
It's
stuff in
true.
history. It's like, I
Hmm.
love history now, did not at all going through school, but gosh, the history that we're doing and the ways that we do it is, I don't know, just more fun and engaging. I don't know if my kids completely agree with that, but anyway, definitely lots of good learning for me. Okay, so our third question here. What is or was the activity that you had great conversations over? So, especially thinking of bonding experiences, because that is what great family conversations are.
Who wants to
I'll
go
start.
first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. Thinking about educational toys and games as part of this, I would have to say, just like you were saying earlier, Christine, crafts and hobbies and
Yeah.
things that you can make together, even baking, in the kitchen
Ah,
together, doing those kind of activities together. There's always been books for young cooks, that start very young, and the books just have very simple recipes. We're going to the library. This was dangerous to take my kids to the library
yeah.
because they would always pick the how-to books, like how to make seeded
Yeah.
animals, how to make, polymer clay, this or that, how to build a birdhouse. I mean, they would find all the how-to books, which is great. I love that. But then I had to go find the stuff so we could make all of the things.
Yeah.
And so we'd have this whole stack of library books, and then we'd have to go to, the craft store or find all the things we could around the house to make do. But it was great because we did it together. It wasn't like something that, I gave the kids and was like, go do it. And, I had to help because they needed me. And so it was kind of fun. And we had a lot of laughter and a lot of talking, a lot of bonding time. And interestingly enough, the kids will open up and just start talking about other things while you're
Yeah.
doing stuff together with your hands and baking or whatever. And all of a sudden, these things start coming out and you're hearing their heart. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is a great opportunity to just, have those divine moments that you can just speak into their life and you listen to where they're at. And it's really good.
I think for me and my boys, it's always been when we play games together because then it's that relaxed atmosphere where, all the stresses of the world are gone. Or maybe you were feeling stressed and you kind of forgot about it. So then, oh, right. I was wondering about this or that. And
Mhm.
and it was finding the games that they enjoyed doing. And so one of the things that we still play today is Uncle Wigglies. And we started reading that as our read aloud. Oh, I don't even know. They were so young when we started it. We got it for, I don't know which grade that came with. And but we read it together as a family, and they loved the book so much. And then I happened to find, I don't know how I found on Amazon that there it was a game available. I'm like, okay, we have to get it.
Yeah.
And we still like they're 12 and 8, and they're like, can we play Uncle Wigglies? And it's just a very simple, there's cards with numbers on it, so instead of dice. So you just flip over cards and move the spaces. Sometimes you have to go back 3 spaces, and there's little situations, and it's very cute, woodland animals. And so you don't have to think too hard with it. So it encourages, just that time together. And yeah, we've had some very nice conversations through those things. We also like to do, the classics like Monopoly and other card games. And I think we have Life that they like to do as well. But we're always looking. We kind of,
Yeah.
if we're in Walmart one day, we'll just kind of browse through the toys and game section, and just to see what else we can add to our collection. So because that's something that's our thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a nice bonding
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely games are one of the good
Yes.
bonding experiences in our household too, without a
Mhm.
doubt, as it is, I'm sure, with most of
Mhm.
our listeners. It's that's why they're so important, and we make it important. We always have Sundays. We play games other days sometimes, but like to make
Mhm.
that one day, okay, like Sundays is our family game playing. And yeah, definitely time to have fun and just be relaxed, and a lot more open for sometimes even just silly conversations, which are important too. I like the deeper conversations, but I do have 2 boys and a husband, and being that they're all male, um, stereotypically, they are not big talkers. I can get my husband to talk about trucks a lot, or engines, or anyway, there's topics he can talk a lot about. So one of the best, and not only my kids, but my husband, actually, we do read the Bible together regularly. We're going through Romans right now, but we usually have a book and we're just read chapter after chapter. And each day we take a chapter, we do a little math at the beginning. Oh, okay, there's 21 verses. How does that divide into 4? So yeah, and then we each take a turn reading. And then I made it mandatory. So we did that for a little while. And then probably the last year, maybe a little over a year, I made it mandatory that everybody has to comment on something. And it can be, depending on what their Bible is, there's usually some little did you know? Or I mean, I've got a study
Hmm.
Bible that I usually read from, and there's always something there. Of course, I have no problem talking at length about just scripture on its own, but that's what I give to
Yeah.
those that aren't big talkers. And so that works really well for great conversations, not just about scripture, which
Mhm.
is so important, but it
Mhm.
actually then, even after that, even if it, okay, now we've left from the time of actually talking about whatever God was showing us in that chapter, and sometimes we'll just morph into another conversation, just
Yes.
about life. They'll share something, and
Yes.
we'll talk about something, and yeah, that's been like
Mhm.
one of the great times, and I'm glad I got this opportunity to talk about that and make that important, because we've actually been a little
Mhm.
bit, because I'm the one that instigates that, I have been a little bit lax in that area, and we haven't been doing it every day. So here's my other motivation to every day, one chapter of the
Mhm.
Bible does not take very long.
That's good. That's really good.
Uh-huh.
So important.
Yeah. And Christine, you're going to share with us a few different things about some products, and we're going to see a little bit more what Homeschooling Finds has for us there. So, what do you have for us and our listeners?
Well, one of the things that popped into my head in terms of games, and it's not considered a game, but it's something that my kids loved growing up. And this is a shout out to Reading Eggs, one of our sponsors for our podcast. So you've probably heard mention of them throughout some of the episodes. And honestly, my kids started reading at such a young age because of Reading Eggs. So shout out to to Reading Eggs. I'm a
Yeah.
firm supporter of them and their program. But one of the things that they love to do was the game aspect of it. There are
Mm,
actually fun games in there where you get to earn different the golden eggs,
Yeah.
And like you just buying things for your avatar, like it used to excite them. And it was so simple,
Mhm.
but it encouraged them to want to learn just to get access to those games. And so I thought it was brilliant. And so that's one of the companies out there that are educational primarily. Of course, they're helpful for reading and for math as well. But for sure, there was such a fun aspect to that program. And so if you're looking for something that carries both, I definitely recommend
Mhm.
Reading Eggs. And yeah, as Steph mentioned, our sister site, homeschoolingfinds.com. That's where you're going to find reviews on wonderful products, not just curriculum, not just toys and games, but books and authors and all of that good stuff that is related to homeschooling needs and resources. And you can find reviews from homeschoolers just like all of us. And so you can trust that these products on there that you find are tried and tested and approved by homeschooling moms. So definitely check out homeschoolfinds.com. And one of the things that stood out for me is obviously as I mentioned, we're big on building stuff. So two of the things that I saw was brain blocks, wooden blocks. We will make sure the links for all of these reviews are in the show notes for you. So that's, just building blocks made out of wood, and you just let your imagination go wild with those. There's also Zoob's building toy, and that's a little bit like kinetics. It's similar to just putting pieces together and creating things. And so you can definitely check that one out. And then another one, like I said, games were a pretty big thing for our bonding thing with our family. Brain Blocks has chess, a chess game. So if you're into that, I think Steph's nodding her head. She's
That was like a big thing, like even just for my boys playing chess. I'm like, that was like one of the, and they still do it now, but they've done it for years. They regularly play chess. And I think it's one of the biggest learning activities. They don't really realize that. And they're
Mhm.
very quite competitive as far as chess goes.
I think my boys got my competitiveness as well. And like honestly, I have tried to play chess and I just think it's too much work, too much brain power for me
It is a lot of
pay
brain power, isn't it?
to pay attention to the rook and the queen can't move this. I just give me checkers and I'll jump and crown me, all that stuff. I'm good with checkers, but chess is but my two boys have learned it. And if I try to play with them, they will continually correct me. Mom, you can't move that there. It's because this XYZ. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You guys just play. But yeah, I am thrilled that they love chess. Those were the ones that really stood out for me. But I mean, there are hundreds of reviews on homeschoolingfinds.com. So if you haven't checked that website out, please do. We'll have the links in the show notes for you.
Thank you. When you were talking about chess, yeah, it's interesting which kids love to pick up on those kinds of
Yeah.
games and which don't. Like some of my kids will never play Monopoly with another one of the children. There's this one child that you don't play Monopoly with, and then there's the other child you don't play chess with.
Yeah, it's true.
But they love it. They love that competition and taking the medal, if you will, for these games. Some of my kids like the word games, like categories,
Oh
or like
yeah.
Balderdash, where you make up your own definitions and people vote on those, and they love those. But I wanted to share with you for this last section. First of all, I want to mention our sponsor again. Today's episode was sponsored by Genesis Apologetics. To learn more about creation, dinosaurs, the global flood, and the Bible, visit genesisapologetics.com. And I can't wait to see that movie now that you shared about the Ark and the Darkness. Is that correct? I really want to go see that with my.
I learned a lot,
families.
and it was engaging, very engaging.
It is,
And
yeah.
it is a documentary style. I actually thought it was going to be like story based, and it's not really. I just thought from the trailer that I saw a while back it was story based, but but it is still, it's really, really quite engaging for a documentary.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about where you can find more resources, and that is through the magazine. And that's sort of our flagship product is, the old Schoolhouse magazine. And we have the free app that's at homeschoolapp.com. And you can download that on whatever smart devices you have, your phones and such. And there's so much in the issue library. So when you open, like if you're opening your desktop version of the magazine, which you would go to tosmagazine.com, you'll open that desktop version up, or even in your app when it opens up, there's always a search bar, always a little thing called the issue library. So the issue library is where you can go back and look at all of our digital magazines from the beginning. And so you can look at all of those, or you can go to the search engine, the little bar that you can put anything in there. So I put in there educational toys and games, and it came up with many of our resource guides. And what we have in the magazine that are resource guides, almost every fall issue, we come up with an educational toys and games resource guide, because that's the time of year you're thinking about Christmas and gift giving, and doing, your kids are starting to get stir crazy because the weather's changing and you want to do games or toys that are educational. And so we almost always, every fall issue, we have some kind of directory or guide, resource guide, that has educational toys and games that are in them. Also, I looked at some articles on toys and games, and we definitely have a lot of articles related to educational toys and games, because that's what we do. We're homeschoolers. We do everything we do is educational, right? Even the gifts we give, it's like, oh, my daughter loves Pride and Prejudice. Let me get this whole bundle of the book, the movie, all the things. Oh, here's even like a program guide for how to study the book. And, and you give that as a gift. And it's kind of funny. This is what we do. But so there's articles that we have in the magazine. There's one from fall of 2019 that I found, and it's called Buying Toys with the Brain in Mind. And this was written by a neuroscientist, and he mentions chess. And he was saying how chess is one of those things that that connect to those neurons in your brain that actually, do some of the deep connecting for the kids. And what his article was saying is that don't just get the ready-made toys.
Yeah.
Like the moving robots with lights and all of that. They'll only play with that for a very short time, but they're not brain stimulating at all. But the ones that they build,
Yeah.
like we talked about, the toys that they build themselves, like build your own robot, that is going to do the brain work for them. And the things like chess and the strategy games and things like that is what he's talking about as a neuroscientist. We want toys. He was saying, get the toys that children will play with repeatedly, like we were talking about Legos. I mean, that's generational.
That was a good investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, so my oldest son all the way down to my youngest son, we have huge now tubs of Lego, right? And so now when my grandson comes over, he's just like, can we play with Legos?
Yeah.
Because it's like every Lego you could think of is in there. But toys definitely look for the ones that will help their brain develop and do that good brain work versus the ones that just kind of sit there that they don't really engage with. And then another article was from our fall 2021 issue, and it's 30 smart toys that make smart kids. And we'll put the links to these articles in the show notes. But this article, the author lists a lot of the things we talked about, just so many things. Picasso tiles, the magnet tiles, and there's also magnetiles, which is part of that. There's mega blocks, there's Duplos, there's Leapfrog has a lot of toys that are
Yeah.
educational. The giant floor puzzles from when they're young
I love
to
those.
the really teeny ones for when they're
Yeah.
older. All the puzzles and any kind of kits like doctor kits or kitchen sets or, you know,
Mm.
things that have a lot of similar things together that they can play with. Things like Tinker Toys and marble mazes. And anyway, she lists 30 different things that have been pretty high in the educational toy and game world. A Ticket to Ride, which is a geography board
Yeah.
game.
That is a popular one
That's
in our house. Yeah, we have the European
yes.
edition.
Oh, how fun is that? We have to
Mhm.
get that one. We have the United States one. It's so many different things. There's even subscriptions to educational toys like little
Yep.
passports and things like that that are fun. Forts, any kind of forts, you know, building fort kits, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, we can do it with what we have in our home, but sometimes it's fun to
Yep.
get a little
Yeah.
kit for that. And then sciencey things that are like the snap circuits or,
Mhm.
creating that circuit through a lemon and, all the things that you
Yeah.
can use at home. All the science experiments are actually fun for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
instead of you have to do this, you get to do this. And
Mhm.
they're really excited about that. So 30 smart toys that make smart kids. That is in our fall 2021 issue. And the last one I'll pull out is from way back. I found one way back in 2012. So that's like a lot of years ago. But it's called Toys That Teach, Playing to Learn.
Mm.
And so many different child development issues she talks about, and all the classic toys she's talking about. She even goes into like the physical toys, like bike gliders, like glider bikes or whatever you call those, that you get on, and learn your balance on those when they're young. And all the outside toys, which are helpful for our kids in so many ways. So each of our children, she talks about, has a different expression, that or gifting that God has given them. Some are very more athletic, and so they need more of the outdoor kind of toys, or things that get their body moving inside. So we have to think about those too. And then she has this huge list of toys, and then it's kind of like a graph that each of the toys after they're listed, like say Lego is on here, of course, it goes into, okay, Lego has visual perception and patterns. It has directional concepts, spatial things. She goes over all the learning benefits of this toy. Sequencing, cause and effect, eye hand, tactical, sets, sorting, numbers, all those things. Attention and concentration is learned through Lego building. So she lists all these different toys, about 30 different toys or more, and then puts in all the brain work that's happening. So I really liked
Oh, that's really
that
awesome.
article. Most of our articles are very evergreen. The information just never, is always helpful. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's called Toys That Teach, Playing to Learn, Educating with Toys, and that's in November of 2012. So again, you can just go to tosmagazine.com and you can go to the search engine, you can go to the issue library, and you can find any topic at all that you need help with, or you want to study more, and put that in there. You'll come up with all the articles from forever. So it's very helpful. And we will put all the links to everything we talked about in our show notes. You can go to homeschoolshow.com for that. And we have upcoming episodes. Coming up next is Preparing Your Heart, Home, and Homeschool for Christ. Looking forward to that. Stephanie, you're hosting that one. I'm looking forward to that one. And Christine, you have a Christmas story, which I'm excited to hear about. And then I'll be hosting Home Where They Belong. And that is exactly why we're here,
Yeah.
is to say that, the Lord has blessed us to keep our children home. And not only where they belong, but where they feel like they belong. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
home is where children know they belong.
Yeah.
And that is one of the deepest needs of children, is to know that they belong, right? And that not only that they belong to our family, but that they belong to the Lord and to his kingdom. And so we're raising them for him. And he blesses us as we do that, doesn't he? And he gives us this wisdom and what toys to pick and what educational things to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Any last words that you ladies have to say before we will end in prayer?
Well, I think that there's a pressure of, you must find educational toys and games. Like, there's that pressure, like you don't want to give them junk, you don't want to give them all the stuff that's gonna rot their brains. But I think if your intentions, like if the intention is to have those bonding moments, and to have a lasting effect of learning on top of that, I think those are definitely important things to consider. But I think watching my boys play together and growing in that way, because you kind of have to love each other if you're gonna play games or do
That's right.
Legos, because somebody always takes the piece that you wanted, and so you have to compromise. And
Right.
so thinking about all of that, and how not just toys and games and the fun stuff that we do, but everything in life that we do, it has to be intentional. And so, yeah, definitely, like you said, pray for those wise moments of presenting them with the right tools and resources. And so, just take the pressure off, because even if you have something as simple as snakes and ladders, you can still get so much out of that. It's not considered a brain developing game, right? But it's going to produce so much more, if you're building into those bonding experiences and learning how to be with one another. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind.
I agree. Yes. Well, if you have any questions about games and what should you get for your child, again, just go to tosmagazine.com. You can look at all the resource guides for those things. You can also go to homeschoolingfinds.com and look at the reviews of all the things that the moms have done with their children and have reviewed for us. So many there. Even on our website at the old Schoolhouse magazine, we have product reviews. You can just put games or toys in the search bar there, and it'll pull up so many more reviews there as well. So we just, as the old Schoolhouse, we want to just come alongside you and support you in any way. So if you ever have any questions, please just email us. We would love to answer and come alongside and help you hold up your arms, hold you steady as you go along, because it can be a long journey, it can be a hard journey, it can be a beautiful journey, it can be all at the same time. But we just want to support you in what you're doing, because it's a good work that you're doing. So with that, let's go ahead and end in prayer. Thank you, Father, for this time of just coming together and learning how to just bless our kids and how they learn best with all of these hands-on things, and just the way you have created their brains to work, and just their curiosity and their creativity. They are created in your image, and you are our creator. And we thank you, Lord, that you have given us the freedom to educate our children at home with us, and to use that, what you've built into them already, to educate them in all the things. And you are just faithful, Lord, to bring forth what you have for each child, to bring forth who they were created to be and what they're created to do. And we don't have to carry that burden. You bring that to pass as we just honor you and steward these children for you. We know that we can trust you, Lord, to give us all that we need as far as wisdom and understanding and how to raise these children for you. We thank you for this time together, and bless our listeners today, Lord. Let them know that they have all that they need for life and godliness and homeschooling through you and your word. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.